Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I step off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, good afternoon, listeners. It is Tuesday, November 12th, and it feels like Tuesday, December 12th, or maybe January 12th. It is cold, it is dark, it is unseasonably chilly for Chicago in November. They're saying this is a cold snap that'll probably set 300 records. I don't really understand how that works, but maybe 300 different cities in the United States will have record low temperatures recorded today. It wouldn't surprise me if my part of Chicago met that requirement, because boy howdy, it really does feel like December or January here. So, yikes. That said, I grew up in Minnesota. I can deal with the cold, so what better way to do that than record a podcast while I walk home? And that's what I'm going to be doing. So today I thought I would talk to you. I've been thinking a little bit toward, now that we're in November, we're heading toward the end of the year. We're getting toward the point where maybe I'm going to be starting to think about next year's 10 for 10. Although right now, I haven't finished our 10 for 10. We still have a ways to go. But, so I'm thinking about it, trying to figure out how am I going to finish out the year and what games am I going to play next year. I was thinking about, I wonder if there should be 100 games I've played before or something, 50 games I've played before, to try to get some of the games off my shelf that have gotten dusty, games that I played and really enjoyed and just never played again. I have a bunch of games that I really would like to do that with, and so I thought what I'd do today is top 5 games that I would like to get back to the table. So this is off the top of my head, thinking about my collection, thinking about games that I have that I think are really good. I would say, all 5 of these would definitely land in my top 50. So it's 10% of my top 50 right here. Games that I haven't played in at least a year, a lot of them 2 years, and I miss them, and I want to play them again. So here they are in order of games I've played the most or most recently to games it feels like the longest since I played. So most recently, or most played, is Orleans. Orleans is a bag builder from Rainer Stockhausen. It's very popular. A lot of you have played it already. I really like it for several reasons. One, it's got this dynamic of lots of different ways that you can move the needle. I think when I was talking about other games that feel similar to it, something like Newton or Lorenzo Il Magnifico, these are games where there's lots of different ways to do things and trying to figure out which way you want to pursue them. Coimbra is another game that felt that way to me. Orleans is the best of them, to my mind. You're building a bag full of tokens, and those tokens go into action spaces that let you do things, and then you get to move your market cart around and collect resources and go up on some tracks that will let you score. And there's lots of interesting things going on. It's a really good game. And I wish I had played it more. I've played it a total of twice. I played it once before I bought it, and then one more time since then. But I think it needs more plays than that. So I would really like to get out and play Orleans some more. On a related note, I'd like to play Altiplano as well, although that game I have gotten to play more. So Orleans fits the list. Altiplano does not. Number 4, A Feast for Odin. A Feast for Odin is a very widely regarded game. A lot of people have played it a bunch of times. I've played it twice. And that makes me sad because I really like it. It's incredibly interesting, incredibly deep. There's a ton going on. And I would love to play it more, but I just haven't gotten it to the table. Now, the big problem with this one, of course, is it's really long. A Feast for Odin takes like 3 hours to play, maybe longer. And a lot of times I just don't get to do that. But if I made an effort to bring the game out at Toggle, I think I could get it played. And it's really fun. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. And like other Uwe Rosenberg games, it uses those polyominoes in really interesting ways. One of the things I like about A Feast for Odin is it's got an enormous market of action spaces. If you haven't played it, I think there are 60 action spaces you could take, and you get a bunch of workers, maybe 8 workers or something to start. And the thing that happens is some of the action spaces just take 1 worker, but some of them take 2 or 3 to use. So you have to kind of decide, do you want to take a bunch of little actions or do you want to take a couple big ones? There are a few actions that have a kind of randomized element. A lot of people don't like that part. And then there are a few profession cards, which I've never done a very good job at getting, and I really should have, because they make a big difference in your ability to accelerate the game. Like the occupations in Agricola, the profession cards are a key to doing well. Now, A Feast for Odin does have the feed your people mechanism, but it's really muted. I can't remember a time playing the game where I wasn't pretty easily able to handle the feeding part. Now here the Norwegians expansion is excellent and changes the game in really good ways, and in ways that make you never want to play it without it again. So I'm kind of tempted to not get that for a while and explore A Feast for Odin as it is. So an incredibly thinky Euro from Uwe Rosenberg, a game I've had for a while and haven't played much, needs more love. A Feast for Odin. Okay. That's my number 4 out of 5 games that need more love. Number 3. Of these, number 3 might be my favorite. Number 2 and number 1 I am excited to play again, and I think they're games that other people will like best. But as far as crunchiness goes, as far as interest goes, number 3 for me is probably tops. And that's the Stefan Feld underwater-themed Aquasphere. Aquasphere is an incredibly deep game with lots of different approaches to take. In the game, you're a scientist and you have a squad of robots that are performing actions at an undersea laboratory of some sort. On your turn, you're going to deploy one of your robots, and each round you're going to move your programming forward one, and when you move your programming forward one, that allows you to create a robot that will then do a thing. So there's a bunch of different elements to keep track of in terms of when you move your programming, it limits your choices the next time that you move your programming. So you have to kind of think ahead about where you want to send your robot. And when you send your robot to a place, then you get to do an action, and the different actions are worth more in different places. So you're thinking about where to send the action, or where to send the robot to get the best value for the action. Then there's also an area control element where if you have the most robots at a place, you get a thing. There are these submarines that you can bring in that will add extra elements to your actions. There's resources you have to get that allow your points to go up, and if you don't have the resources, then you stop, even if you've earned more points, which is really a kind of rough limit. There's cute little octopus meeples. There are several different ways to get more resources that add to your engine. You can build your lab. So there's a bunch of different things you can do, and the game is really fascinating and fun. And I wish that I'd played it. I think I've played it twice. I wish that I'd played it more than that, and I think I need to get it back out. So that's Aquasphere by Stefan Feld. All right, these last 2, one of them is a game I've only played once, but I really liked. The other game is a game I played several times when we first got it, and it just hasn't been back out to the table. So my number 2 game out of the 5 that need more love is Shakespeare. Now, Shakespeare, I think, is a game that my wife would really enjoy now. But when I first got it, it was probably too deep for her taste. It's got a number of different mechanisms that you're trying to track, and it is worker placement, but you also are recruiting things. Thematically, it's incredible. You have these actors who are best known for certain Shakespearean parts, and they give you bonuses based on those parts. So there's a fun, you get to recruit Hamlet, and you recruit Ophelia, and you recruit Desdemona. And it's really thematic in terms of engaging with my interest and love of Shakespearean plays. There's a bunch of different tracks to keep track of. Reminds me again of those sort of track-based Euros like Newton or Lorenzo Il Magnifico, you have a sort of poetry track that you're writing on. You're gaining favor with the queen, and you get points from that. You also have the stage set that you're building, and as you play, you get to develop elements from the stage, and those elements will score you points at the end. It's all very good. I mean, it's a little bit older, so probably by today's standards, it's not quite as good as some of those others, but thematically, I really enjoy it. And I think there's a lot to be said for the way the game works. I also found on sale the expansion, the backstage expansion, which gives you more of the actors and characters, and I think it adds one mechanism. So I'm interested to try the game with that, and just generally to enjoy the game a bit more. I really liked it, and I'm hoping that with a couple years of experience playing games, my wife is going to find it more accessible. The level of game that she plays with ease now is so much higher that it seems more likely that I'll be able to, that she'll be able to enjoy it in a way that she wasn't the first time we played it. So that's my number 2 game of my top 5 needs more love games, and that's Shakespeare. So have you figured out what my number 1 game is yet? I think I've mentioned it several times in the last couple months as I talk about games that I need to get out more. This is the dramatic card tableau builder from Dunstan and Gilbert, Elysium. Elysium is one of the first really deep hobby games I bought. I bought it, feels like a long time ago. It was all the rage when it came out. And it's got a bunch of things going for it that make it really good. I will say, this game had the most love when we got it. We played it probably half a dozen times and really enjoyed it. But then it went on the shelf and we kind of put it away. But I think it's a game that's due for a resurgence. So let's talk about what there is to love about Elysium. 1, the action selection mechanism is really neat. So the way the game works, a market of cards will come out each round. Those cards all have little circles in the corner, usually 1 or 2 circles, that give them a color. There's 4 colors in the game: red, green, blue, yellow. When you play, you can buy any of the cards for which you still have a marker. So you start with 1 marker of each color. On your turn, you can buy any of the cards for which you still have a marker. Then after you buy a card, you must discard 1 of your markers. The marker you discard does not have to be one of the ones you used to buy the card. It could be any of them. So you discard 1 of the markers. Then on your next turn, you're only going to have 3 cards, or 3 markers. Again, you buy a card. After you're done buying a card, you discard a marker. Now, the thing is, only having 3 markers, there are some cards you can't buy anymore because you don't have that marker. If you discard the red marker, then any cards that only have a red dot on them, you can't buy. So as the round goes along, you can see which cards you're going to be able to buy based on the markers you have. More importantly, you can see which cards other people can't buy. So if there's a card with just a green marker on it, and everyone else discards their green markers in the first round, you know I could save my green marker till the last round, and I will get to get that card because no one else has their green marker. It's a really interesting card selection mechanism that I've not seen again in any other games. So, what do you do when you buy the cards? Well, you have 2 areas in your tableau. You have an Elysium and a Pantheon. The Elysium is the sort of active area. When you buy a card, it goes into the active area and it does stuff. It affects your game in various ways. It can get you money, it can get you points, it can interact with other players' cards, blah, blah, blah. It does a bunch of stuff. At the same time, it won't score you it won't end the game, it won't win the game for you. Because the main goal of the game is set collection. You're trying to get different kinds of sets of cards, and you get those by moving them into your Elysium. So at the end of each round, one of the things you can do is spend transfer points, for lack of a better word, glory, to move cards from your Elysium down to your Pantheon. When you do that, they stop giving you the benefit that they were giving you in the Elysium, but then they become eligible to score you points at the end of the game. And the thing is, these transfer abilities are pretty limited. One person is going to get like 2 or 3 during the round. Everybody else is going to get like 1, maybe 2. I don't think there might be one way to get 4, but it's pretty rare. So moving the cards down is difficult. So you have to start moving them down before the last round of the game. There's only like 5 rounds or something. So there's a really interesting mechanism, push-pull, where you want to keep your cards that are benefiting you. But if you wait too long to move those cards down, you won't get points for them, and points are how you win the game. So it's again, there's this variety of engine builders where you build your engine and then you tear it apart. And the question of when to tear your engine apart is a really interesting one, and one that makes Elysium just a really tight game. Now, I will say I remember some downsides of Elysium. The main one is play length, because you have to understand all the cards in order to bid on them, and because every time you take a card, you are giving up your chance to get other cards. It suffers from a significant amount of AP, and every game of Elysium I played took longer than it felt like it should have. Now, I always enjoyed it the whole time because there's so much to think about. Your brain is running the entire time. But it is a long game, and new players, it takes longer rather than, the more experienced you are, the faster it goes, of course. But it does have a variety. There are 9 different decks of cards that get shuffled into the market, and you only use 5 in a game. So you mix and match depending on what kind of game you want to play. So that part's really fun. Man, just talking about it really makes me want to get out Elysium. So that's definitely, I'm certainly confirmed in my idea that is the number one game that needs more love from my shelf. That's Elysium from Matt Dunstan and Brett Gilbert. And with that, I am arriving home. So, what games or game on your board game shelf needs more love? Pop over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and let me know. I look forward to hearing from you and finding out what games you want to play more often. Until next time, thanks for joining me, and I hope your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.